So did you know that you have to start with the scratches one at a time and then go to smaller scratches and then smaller scratches? What the heck am I talking about? So what I'm talking about is prepping a car for paint. So, you do all the metal work and it all smoothed out, and now we're trying to, level out the primer, the thick primer coats. And what you're going to do is you're going to start off with like a 160 sandpaper, and you're going to sand that, and that's going to leave little scratches in there. And then you're going to move up to a 220, and you're going to sand that, and then a 3, and then a 400, and then up to 1,000, and then now you're up to wet sanding. And each time you're trying to remove the scratches from the previous sandpaper. It's really interesting because my first job here in Utah was an auto body shop. I was hired to be a mechanic, but they didn't have any mechanic work for me yet, so they taught me how to do body work. And I'll tell you what, that is an art that I don't have the finest details for. When you're block sanding in a spot for over and over a whole fender area or a curve of a fender, or trying to get the hood to level out. And I'm not just talking about metal working, I'm just talking about the paint prep. And so you started out, you're putting in some deep gouges with some 80 grit sandpaper to get the metal to relax and get to its place. And then you put on some primer and some guide coat, and then you start running it down to your 180 and on. And it's interesting because that thought was, when I was taught, is you're going to take the previous scratches and remove them by doing these other hard things. And you know what's funny? Life's a lot like that. When we go out and try new things, that's putting new cuts into our reality. And then until we fine tune that one and get a better view, then we can go to the next step and do more. So think about this, is when we're out and about and we're trying to accomplish something new, it seems daunting. Looking at the whole car, it seems daunting. But as we take that 80 grit and then the 160, as we go to finer and finer cutting material, how much more polished we are, how much shinier we are, because all the little scratches have now disappeared out of view, because we were willing to start at the hard part. So think about that. And I think about it in regards to the mini projects. We're coming up to the end of the school year, and I've seen all these things going on. The school year wasn't as rough as last year, but it definitely stretched me. And I think about those challenges. And like I said, last year was rougher. This year, not so bad. Hoping next year will be a little better. And I can't say it's just because of students or school politics, but because I'm able to polish the coarser cuts out. Hopefully that makes sense. That each step it takes a little more effort, a little more away, and we're able to get to that point. You're not alone. God loves you. I love you. And until we ride again, thank you.